Okay, we're starting from 69b top line. Yihachi Sefer Nami. If so, then the Bryce's last case, as well as the item, should be tahor. If you don't remember what that is, don't worry. We'll remember in a moment or two. The Gemara answers, that was the case where he told his workers, he said, you go up ahead of me, all right, and I'll follow. All right. And then we said his utensils and his foods will remain pure as long as they're still within his sight, within the horizon. But once they go beyond the horizon, obviously he's out of sight of his workers. They might put some sticks and touch the food, or let their friends touch the food or the yayin, and it will become not pure anymore. And this is the days of the Beis Hamikdash, and it's very important that everything was stayed in Torah. Since he told them, go ahead and I'll follow you later. So they're confident that he will not arrive for some time. Okay. After teaching the law for one who hires an idol worshiper to transport his wine, the mission discusses two more cases. I think we're reviewing a little bit. One who leaves an idol worshiper in his store. All right, he's leaving the store and he's leaving the idol worshiper to watch the store for a while. Or one who leaves his wine in a wagon or a boat. Again, he's leaving. We did these cases already, and there's a chance now that the idol worshiper that's in the store, or the guy who's the captain of the ship might say, I'm going to take off. I'm going to, make this wine, Nesach wine, etc., etc. Each of these two additional cases, the Mishnah states the exact same ruling as it did in the first case. If the idol worshiper is not informed in advance that the Jew would be going far, and the wine is permitted if the Jew did not return for a long time. If the idol worship was informed, the wine is permitted only if the idol worship did not have enough time to touch the wine in the barrel and then hiding the evidence of the tampering. Okay, so if you remember, we said BRB, be right back, is a way for the Jew to protect his wine. All right? Because as long as he says be right back, these idol worshippers, they ain't going to mess around. He could come back or they won't. Or if they think he could come right back, all right, because he could come back another route. Or in the case of the captain of the ship, he says, oh, I think I'm getting out of the way. You know what? But this guy, the Jew, he might go up on the lighthouse that's right there in the harbor. He'll still see where I am and see what I'm doing with the ship. So in any of those cases where the idol worshiper is worried that, he might not get away with his shenanigans, then in those cases, we say it's still mutar, it's still kosher, the wine, the food is Torah, etc., etc. Okay, and then we had to give a time limit for this, all right? And then we had the machlokas in the Gemara, which was, are we talking about the time it takes to drill a little hole, fill it with clay, and then let the clay dry? Because obviously if the Jew came back and the hole was still had fresh clay, you'd see a different color to it, all right? Or the machlokas was, or did we say, no, it's the time it takes to remove the entire plaster cover of the barrel and then replace a brand new cover by replastering the top of the barrel, in which case plaster all looks the same color. Wet plaster, right, Josh? Wet plaster, dry plaster, it's white plaster, period, end report. So it wouldn't be so easy to figure out what's going on. So Gemara explains why the Mishnah had to repeat the same law 3 times. Yeah, I think we mentioned this morning, but we're getting back into the groove to remind ourselves. And it was necessary to state all 3 cases. Why? The Mishnah only taught the case of the idol worshiper who was transporting the wine. I might have said there's only there that the wine is permitted if the Jew did not inform the idol worshiper that he was going far. So the first case with the transport, I might have thought only in that situation would have been prohibited. All right? The Sabbath, they must say the Chazilay, because the other worshiper says to himself, maybe the Jew will come back any moment and they'll see me. So therefore, I'm not going to take a chance. Therefore, it's still kosher. But in the case of the wagon or a boat, where, they're going way past the horizon, or the guy's got a motorboat and he's taking it out just outside of the bay, and and he thinks they can get away with it. I might say that the wine is forbidden because the idol worshiper can steer his boat far away. So that the goings on isn't within reach of his sight that the Jew can see and do so as he pleases with the wine. Vitana Bacano Bisfina. And if the Mishnah taught only the case of the wine in a wagon or boat, that might have said that it's only in that case that the wine is permitted where the Jew did not inform the iron worshiper they was going far. All right, he said, I'll be right back. Because the idol worshiper thinks to himself, yeah, you know what? Yeah, it's true. He's far away from me. I don't see him on the horizon. But, there are a lot of other routes here and, entrances on the highway. He might have made a U-turn. He might be coming back 1, 2, 3 from his side road, and I didn't even realize he's going to catch me right away. So perhaps he'll come back via a different route, the car Guda Chazili, and he'll stand on the high wall. That's the case with the boat. He's in the lighthouse, and they'll see me. But now another case. But in the case when the idol worshiper, whom the Jew left in the store, I might say that the wine is forbidden, even if the Jew did not inform the idol worshiper of his distant destination. For the idol worshiper can lock the door. Yeah, we said this morning. The door of the store, that's a good rhyme, all right, and do whatever he pleases to the wine. Amash Malan therefore informs us that the wine is permitted in all 3 cases. Okay, now further. The Mishnah disputes, the Mishnah records a dispute as to how long, now we can go into the plaster. The idol worshiper, how long, in the case of which the Jew informed the idol worshiper they'd be going for a far distance, the Jew must be in order for the wine to become forbidden. All right? If he said, I'll be right back, the wine's not forbidden. But if he said, I'm going away for a while, how much is that while? The Tanakama holds that is long enough for the idol worshiper to have bored a hole in the lid of the barrel, patch the hole, and for the patch to have dried. This we said before. This is what Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel maintains. It's long enough for the idol worshiper to have removed. No, that's what the Tanakama says. Get rid of the phone. But according to Rabban Shimon Gamliel, Rashbag, this is where we ended this point. He said it's long enough for the idol worship to have drilled a hole. No, not drilled a hole. That was the first case. To have removed the entire lid and then replastered the new lid. So they're both giving time limits. But if it's within those, time limits, that therefore the non-Jew, in this case the idol worshiper, will not have enough time to do this shenanigan, then it is still mutar. The wine is still permitted. It is still kosher 100%. Amar Rabbi Baba Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Baba Chana said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Machlokes b'shel sid. So where do they really argue? The case number 1, the case number 2, it's if the top is made of plaster. I know I've mentioned this, so I keep on repeating it. So they only argue in the case of plaster. Because in the case of clay, everyone agrees the amount of time the Jew has to be away is enough to make the hole, take out the wine, plug up the hole, and let the clay dry. All right? But where do they argue in the case of the plaster, where we're saying it's got to be long enough for the idol worshiper to remove the lid, apply the new lid, and the lid to have dried? The explanation is questions. Masons. They challenged it from a brisa. So they took a lone Mishnah off the shelf, Mishnah without a Gemara, that's called a brisa. Amar Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Chachamim. And what did Rashbag say to Chachamim? Why? Its patch is recognizable both from above and underneath. Now, it is understandable if you say that the dispute concerns a lid of clay. So if you're talking about the case where you bore the hole and then filled it with clay, and then the clay dries, well, then it looks the same on top, and when you look from the bottom, it looks the same from the bottom. All right, because all he patched up was the little holes that he made. All right. But once by state that the patch is recognizable from both of them. So why in this price does it say the patch is recognizable from both above and underneath? Because it's talking about clay. I'm at the show, sit machlokas. But if we're talking about plaster, then there's a machlokas. Because it is recognizable from underneath. Because when he replasters above, he's not smoothing it from below. What's below is what's lying on top of the wine. So eventually, when he takes the lid off, although the top is nice and smooth and might have fooled him to have been untouched wine barrel, when he opens up, he goes, wait, something's wrong here. The bottom isn't new old stock. This isn't smooth like it's supposed to be. Something went on wrong here. Because it dried up on top of the wine or whatever it was. But the thing is, when he first looked at the flask, the barrel, what's your cask? Cask or barrel, and he looked from the top, it wasn't recognizable that it wasn't good, because the only way he'd know it plaster is if he looked from the bottom. Right. Gemara answers, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, who the lo yada my kama rabbana. The rabbis were indeed discussing a lid of plaster, and it was Rav Shimon ben Gamliel who did not know for sure what type of lid the rabbis were discussing. And accordingly, in his rejoinder to them, he allowed for both possibilities. He said to them as follows. If you're talking about clay, the clay is recognizable from both above and below once it dries. And if you're talking about clay, the plaster, granted, from above it's not recognizable. It's only recognizable from underneath. We just repeated what I had said already. Having defended Rav Yochanan's statement that the dispute refers to a lid of plaster, the Gemara offers a defense to what Rav Shimon Gamliel was arguing, Rabbana, and the rabbis would say, since it is not recognizable from above, the Jew doesn't think to turn it over, inspect it from underneath. He said that. Once it dries up on the top, why would he bother to turn it over and then discover? Guess what? It was really a fake lid. Or a restored lid, whatever. Like refurbished lid, okay.
Root canal. Root beer.
Yeah, right. Pre-owned lid. All right. And even if he does not turn it over, sometimes the patch melds uniformly with the rest of the lid, even without being smoothed down, so it will be indistinguishable even from underneath. So he's saying, it's possible that the underneath might even blend also. The Gemara rules on the Tanaic dispute. Amar Rava. Rava said, Halacha Karaban Shimon Gamliel ho it's non-stomach kavasi. The halacha is in accordance with Rashbam, Rav Shimon Gamliel, since we have learned an anonymous Mishnah in accordance with his opinion. So now we're going to bring a Mishnah. It's coming from the left shelf. All right, that's a Mishnah that is with the Gemara. All right, it's not a lone Mishnah like the Bryson. It's one that we're borrowing from a Gemara. And what do we learn in that Mishnah this time? So we learned in the Mishnah, a Jewish guy was eating at the table. We learned this morning. It just was dining at the table in idol worship. And he left the flask of wine on the table and the flask in the cupboard. The dubaki is the wine cupboard or wine cooler that normally the people who eat in the restaurant they don't have the right to go and take the wine from there. Only the waiter or the owner can give it to them. And then he said, excuse me, I'll be back. And he left the idol worshiper alone and stepped out. She left him alone at his table with a bottle of wine, a flask of wine that's open, and open wine in the cupboards. All right? Right. So the open stuff that is on the table, that is special. When the Jew comes back, you can't touch it. The stuff that's in the duplicate, all the stuff that's there that's closed, which was not open, that is still permitted for use later on in the restaurant by the Jew, by the owner, whatever. But what happens if during this friendly dinner meeting or the business meeting, the Jew who owned the restaurant said to the non-Jew, he says, listen, I have to stop out. I got to take this call. And you know what? Make yourself at home. Take all the wine you want to drink. He left it an open-ended, open tab. So this guy, who knows how much he drinks? He might knock down the flask right away. It was on the table. And he said, well, the owner said I can have whatever I want. He reaches over, opens the cabinets of the wine cooler, and he opens up a new bottle, which would have been unheard of otherwise. But he said, I got permission to do this. Because he said, do pour and drink. Even though what's in the cupboard is normally forbidden, as far as any wine that the Jews might have left in the rest of the house, that which is in open barrels is forbidden, while the ones that still sealed ones are permitted. Within the time, again, what we said before, that it takes for him to open the barrel, close it, this, that, etc., right, to make it look like it dried and was never opened. The fact that the Mishnah concludes with only Rabban Shimon Gamliel's opinion indicates that the halakha follows his view. That's what we're saying here. Just bear with that. The Gemara asks, Shita, this is obvious. Anyone can see we have here an anonymous Mishnah that's in accordance with Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. Why would Rava have to teach us this fact? Gemara answers, Mal Desema, Kula Rabban Shimon Gamliel Katanila. You might have said the entire last section of the Mishnah is taught by Rav Shimon Gamliel. Kamash Malan, so was Rava teach us that actually the last section is in fact the words of the anonymous Mishnah. It's of other rabbis and not just Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. Having concluded whose view the halacha follows, the Gemara wonders about a prevalent practice. The Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel delo chayish l'tuma. That's tuma with a tough and an aleph at the end, not tuma with a tet. But now that we hold in accordance that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, who is unconcerned for the idol worshippers puncturing a hole in the barrel, the Hilchas Kavasi, the Rabbi Eliezer, Delo Chayish Lezipa, and the halacha also towards Rabbi Eliezer, who's unconcerned for any type of forgery, which we're saying both these rabbis agree. Aidna my timer, lo muskin chamra biyad aveka chagin. So why is it that nowadays we don't deposit wine in sealed barrels with idol worshippers? We've got reasons that we shouldn't have to worry about it anyway. Okay, because we know when there'll be a problem. So after saying all this, whether you remember or not, we're coming to a temporary conclusion that there's no reason we can't leave closed barrels around idolatrous worshippers. So the Gemara answers, Mishum Shaika. You know why? Because there's an air hole. Oh. So what's an air hole? You know, at the top of a whale, there's that little hole. Or at the top of your water heater, there's a little spout. All right. There's always a little hole when you're dealing with something that's under pressure. All right. So that the pressure can escape. Unfortunately, by human beings, that hole is our mouth. And when we're under pressure, sometimes things come out of our mouth that shouldn't come out. Right? So the Gemara teaches a rule related to the Mishnah. I learned this to the fourth case. Rava said, now listen, these next cases are really kind of white. Zona Vestucham, and
Now, hold on.
I'm going back. I know it's a family shia. I can read the English. All right, the dressmakers. We're going back to the euphemism.
Use magic. It's
From
practice
last-
trying to
from
get magic.
early in the week. Zona Vestucham Yisrael Mesupin Yitzlach. An idolatrous dressmaker is having dinner and with the Jew, and he's reclining with her. It's almost like it's the second day of Pesach, and they're both kind of leaning one by the other. This is a wild case to bring up here. And there's wine belonging to the Jew on the table. Look what it says. Chomer Shari, the wine is permitted. Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Something's wrong.
Wrong.
He is running. First of all, what's he doing with the
Where's his mother?
Everything is wrong here.
His mother's not there. That's
Where's
the
his mother?
His mother's
Everything
gonna
is
kill
wrong
him.
here.
She finds out his mother's gonna kill him. You're right. So I'm assuring the wine is permitted. Wine, we're gonna learn in a moment. But just
They got figures.
review this case again. It's so wild. There's a Jew, supposedly from Jew, and he's sitting with
I know, he'd tell you it says Jews.
which is a euphemism.
Plural.
Josh is pulling out his shofar. We don't blow it at night, we learned, all right? The heed the shakif lahu yitra davera. So get a load of this. Granted that they are overpowered by the urge to sin for forbidden dressmaking,
Thank you.
all right? Transvestites switched under their dresses.
Sponsors.
All right.
Give our sponsors.
We have no
We're gonna
sponsors.
lose all of our sponsors.
That's why we have no sponsors. I'll tell you one more.
Here goes Purina.
Why'd you fill this with seltzer? I drink water.
Oh, sorry.
Take those bubbles out. You can have that. Give me some
Oh
water.
my God. Here, I got water.
We have water here.
We have water.
Right. Yitzchak the Nesach or Takiflu. By the year they have. What's interesting is the Gemara says that they have this tremendous urge to do dressmaking together, or to undo the dressmaking
Oh
together.
my God, we have so many.
But Yitzchak the
We're never getting sponsors.
Takiflu.
Very good.
But the guy doesn't have any Sahara to drink Nesach wine. This is like the guy, the Ganav, who's caught stealing, and there's a knife there, and he could pick up the knife to kill the guy, but he's not picking up the knife. And I don't remember exactly why he's picking up the knife. He goes, what do you mean? That's a milchik knife. I can't use a milchik knife to kill you. But he's already ready to steal from him, whatever the case was over there. So here, he's got the Yetzirah, he's got the temptation to sit with a dressmaker, which is a euphemism we've used before, all right? For people that, when they fix the dresses, don't have to remove the dresses, obviously.
Oh my God.
But here, he
Hello, Chevrolet. You're pulling your sponsorship.
he does not have the control.
Gone.
He's able to control that, but he's not. Wait, don't confuse me. Yitzchak the Nesach lo takiflahu. But the urge for the sin of Nesach wine, they're not overpowered. So they're willing not to touch the wine, the Jew. But the other thing he's still not sure of. Now listen to this other case. This next case makes the first case even crazier. Actually, next case in vain. Zoning Israelis for of the Kochavim Shugin. What if the people, it's reversed? It's a Jewish woman dressmaker who's hanging out with idolaters, and they're sitting at the table and they're having a meal, which again, that doesn't sound very kosher. And they're reclining with her, which also doesn't sound kosher. And there's wine which belongs to her, kosher wine on the table. In that case, it says the opposite. It says Chamra Asur. Then the wine is forbidden. In the first case, where the dressmaker was not Jewish, we said the wine was permitted. But here in the case where the dressmaker is Jewish, but the people eating with her are not Jewish, we say that the wine is forbidden. I don't really understand why. It doesn't make sense. So what's the Gemara answer? My timer. What's the reason? Obviously, the Gemara had to ask the question. What's the reason? Not my timer. How does it taste? Means my timer. What's the reason? Oh, the zila alihu. The thing she is cheap in their eyes, in which she's cheapened herself by making herself a dressmaker. So even these non-Jewish idolaters look at her. They don't look at her as a respectable woman. They don't look at her as a respectable Jewish woman. Even Trump requires of his wife and the women in his family dress respectfully. I saw this. He has certain rules and regulations. They have to appear in public, see a stick with long skirts. You won't find his wife Melania with a short skirt. All right, you won't find
Go
his
on.
No, he didn't say Melania has short.
So the wine is forbidden. What's the reason? That in this case, where the woman who is the dressmaker is Jewish, but the men eating with her are not, why is that wine forbidden? It's obviously not forbidden to them because they don't care. They're idolaters. They're going to drink wine anyway. It's forbidden to her. Since she is cheap in their eyes, she's drawn after them and will not protest if they pour the wine as a libation. This is a woman who put herself in the wrong place. She's hanging around with the wrong friends. She has essentially cheapened herself. She's a min lo bemino, right? She's a kind that's not in her kind. And she's gone after the wrong kind, means lo bemino, or I say, I'm not going to go into 160. It depends what it tastes like. And in this case, it tastes like tray wine. All right? There's my own little shot in there. You get shot in the head. All right, statement. The Gemara now relates a series of short instances. In each case, where an idol worshiper was found along with someone with Jewish-owned wine. And we asked about the status of the wine. All right? Here we are. We are now at the top of 70 Amud Aleph, at least from here to 70. Let's try and go through it. It's 12 cases. Let's go as far as we can. So tomorrow we can do 71. Which means I have to prayer 71 tonight. So maybe we won't go that far, but let's see how far we go. A whole besa, the Hava yesterday, Chamad Yisrael, there was a house in which the wine that was in the house belonged to a Jew. Wait, there was a certain house in which wine belonging to a Jew and an idol worshiper was kept. So, what does that mean? That both, I say the Virgin Gemara said, okay. So there was two types of wine. This basically was a wine cellar, all right, to a warehouse, all right. It had the kosher section owned by the Jew, and it had the Nesach wine, the wine that was going to use later on for idolatry by the INSF. So two owners of wines. But at the moment, the flasks are closed, the casks are closed. The idol worshiper entered the locked door from behind him. Now, there was a hole in the door through which a portion of the interior of the house could be observed. So even though the idol worshiper locked the door behind him, which means, I mentioned this earlier on, that he's now alone in this room with kosher wine and
Probably medicine.
oh, okay. And non-kosher wine. The idol worshiper was subsequently found by someone who peered through the hole to be standing between the barrels. So what happened was he's there between the barrels. Nothing's happened yet. But a year goes by, it's like a store. He sees the people, he doesn't know the door's locked, he wants to see if someone's inside. He looks in the people, he sees the non-Jewish owner of wine standing in between the kosher barrels and the non-kosher barrels. So it says, I'm a Rava. What does Rava say? Again, we're bringing situations where there's a non-Jew by kosher barrels. Code day is showing any barrels opposite the hole, meaning it's visible from the outside. You know, might only have, you can't have maybe 180 degrees of view, but let's say you have 90 degrees of view, all right, from that hole. So all those barrels are still permitted. Why? Because the guy knows that whoever might be looking in the hole, those barrels they could see. And they'll see if he's going to go and tamper with the barrels. But he also knows that the ones that are on the periphery, it's beyond his peripheral vision, he can't see, and therefore he might go and adulterate those barrels, disqualify those barrels. All right. Those are the high gisa, the high gisa usher. Those on this side and that side of the hole, they're forbidden. Right? That's the first case. So again, even if he's locked alone with the barrels, as long as we can see the barrels that he can touch, those barrels are still permitted. But once we can't, what?
It would be like a camera today.
Okay, good. Yeah,
Good.
Hiro's saying it's like when you have a camera in the warehouse and Nest Cam or whatever it is, or what's that?
Fuji,
Polaroid.
Polaroid,
No, what's
Kodak, Canon.
what's Ring TV? A Ring.
Canadian television.
Ring. You know, you set.
Our ring.
If you have a ring, you set how much you can see. So if it's within the view of the Ring camera, then those things are still permitted. Because you're going to see, it's permitted as long as you didn't touch it, but you can see that anything beyond that is not permitted. Second case, there was this wine that belonged to a Jew that was kept in a house. The Avodah Yisrael, and it was a duplex house, two-story house. The Jew lived upstairs and the idol worshiper lived downstairs. All right. So through a hatch in the floor of his upper story, the Jew was able to observe the wine in the lower story, so the wine was considered supervised. Obviously, in order to get upstairs, he had to go up the ladder or the staircase and go through the attic hole in order to get up there. We mentioned this the other case. Of the case where there were the women that were upstairs and the rabbi was downstairs. He moved the staircase or the ladder so that there was no way he could possibly be tempted to go upstairs. And then he yelled out the Jews, the house is on fire, they should come here. It's a whole wild case. If you don't remember that, then you weren't with us the other day and you need to go back. Anyway, and if you were with us, then you don't remember. Listen, hold on a minute.
Everybody loved wine back then so much. Yeah. They loved wine.
So the second case is where you have a house, a two-story house. The Jew lives upstairs, and the idol worshiper lives downstairs in the lower story. But the Jew can always see through the opening, the attic opening. I have a question. Why is them seeing me now? Does that mean that Josh was the only person that he hung up? That's when he.
Oh, we had to go.
Yeah, it says one. I'm the only one I'm talking
Oh,
but thank you.
no. Hello, Morocco.
I still have
Hello, Morocco.
Morocco.
Hello, Morocco.
I still have my lawyer here. I have Jeff, and I have Hilo.
Look, there's Moshe Bakar.
Okay.
Look, there's Moshe Bakar.
Well, he's not learning. He's just standing there. All right, thank you. Second case. So what happens in this story? Since the Jew could always watch the wine and check on it, so the wine is considered supervised. Shamo Kol Tigra, it happened once that a Jew heard an idol worship, that the Jew and the idol worshiper heard the sound of a quarrel outside. Now, this isn't a scroll like we had this morning. This is a quarrel, just in case my accent is not right. They heard people arguing outside. Nafki. And he went outside to watch. So who's stepping outside? It's the Jew that's stepping outside to watch. The idol worshiper went back into. They both stepped outside. But what happened is the idol worshiper went back into the house first and locked the door behind him. So what do we say? Rubber says, Kamar Shari. the wine is still permitted. Josh is back, right? Neymar, so the idol worshiper said to himself, why are we still permitting it? Thanks, Josh, for coming back. Just as I think I came into the house first, maybe the Jew really came in first. And he's already upstairs. And he already is able to watch me and what's going on downstairs. So because he wasn't sure who came in first, he's not going to mess with the wine. And therefore, we still say the wine is allowed. A third story, a third instance. Ahuish Pisa, the Haba Yosef Bey Chamad Yisrael. There was certain inn, all right? This was the Hilton. It's probably more Motel 6.
Yeah.
All right. There was a certain in which wine belonging to a Jew was kept.
Castaways.
Ishakach, they knocked down the castaways.
No.
Ishakach, Oved Kochavim, the Haba
Jeff's place.
That's the one in the beach thing.
Yeah, they used to have castaways. These no, it's not there anymore.
Our place, our kosher place.
Anyone in Turks and Caicos.
Turks and Caicos.
I have enough, Mr. Gas, to figure out this Gemara. Come on, guys. So there's a certain inn. It belonged to, in which the wine belonging to a Jew. He kept his wine. One day, an idol worshiper was discovered sitting among the barrels. He comes into his inn, and this guy's sleeping among the barrels. And he's a known idol worshiper. In fact, he's got a T-shirt that says Billy Idol on it. All right? So, Rava said, if the idol worshiper could have been apprehended as a burglar on account of it, it was if he could have been caught had he been caught in the inn near the wine, he would have been arrested for burglary. The wine is permitted. The low usher, but if not, if he would have been justified his presence to the authorities with some sort of excuse, then it's forbidden. So what does that mean? It means that in that case, if there's any suspicion, this guy definitely didn't belong there. This place was normally closed during those hours. All right. So had the owner of the motel opened the door and seen him there, he would have called 911, called the police, said, arrest this guy. He doesn't belong here. There's no excuse because they didn't make it. But let's say that was the front lobby, and the doors are never locked in that hotel. And actually, the wine coolers, kosher wine, not kosher wine, they're all kept right there in the lobby. They're accessible. So, and they found him sleeping there. So they really can't arrest him because anyone can go into the lobby of a hotel. So you're forced to go out, right? They could have said, I went in, I didn't see anybody at the moment. I was so tired. I just fell asleep here on the couch by the wine barrels, waiting for someone to come. So you wouldn't arrest him. In that case, it's not forbidden the wine. So if he could have justified his presence to authority with some sort of excuse, it is forbidden. It is forbidden. Well, I thought we just said it's not forbidden. We said low usher. Hold on a second. 16 minutes.
Forbidden if he doesn't go to jail.
If it appears that the idol worshiper would have had a way to justify his presence in the house, had he been surprised by someone while there, then we assume that in fact entered the house with the intent to render the wine necessary. Relying in the event of detection as so the whole thing is if the guy's prepared with an alibi, then it's forbidden.
If he's risking going to jail,
Risking going to jail, but he has an alibi.
if he's risking going to jail, is permitted.
Because he can't possibly have an alibi. But if the guy's so sure he has an alibi, then he's not risking going to jail because he's going to say, hey, call my lawyer as my alibi. Call my friend. He's with me, blah, blah, blah.
Jeff, good for that.
Fourth incident. Okay. I hope they said the Haba Yosef Bey's summer. All right. Further way down the page. There's an incident in the house where wine was kept belonging to a Jew where it was kept. One day, an idol worshiper was found standing amongst the barrels. In the last case, he was lying amongst barrels. This time, he's standing. Rava, and in the original case, he was standing between barrels, but he was envisioned through the peephole with a camera. Rava, he is lay ish tamute. If he had a way to, this is actually what we just said. If he had a way to evade the charge of burglary, meaning that he had alibis and a good excuse, chamra asur, then the wine is forbidden. Below chamra shari, but if not, the wine is permitted.
Excuse me. It could also be like it wasn't like closed up properly. It wasn't stored like a rock. So like he didn't have to break in. Like if he
Okay, whatever. The whole point here is, because I can't wait, we're going so fast, memorize all these cases. We're gonna go another 15 minutes. If you want to watch it later, fine. The lawyer needs to go.
Yeah, go.
Your wife's calling you, right? Oh, no, you're going to Yitzi now. You're so hungry, you get a burger, right?
I have to. It's part of my contract.
Okay.
It's part of my contract.
Okay.
Show up every.
Say hi for me. I would
Show
go,
up every-
I'm
yeah,
not
hamburger.
gonna exhaust myself. Okay, the ruling is questioned. Basically, they challenge Rabbi's ruling from a brisa. So they're bringing a Mishnah, a long Mishnah from a brisa. Nino hapunduk o shama lo shama. If upon his return, the door to the inn in which the Jew left an idol worshiper alone with his wine was found to be locked. Uh-oh, that door is locked, and the idol worshiper is inside. Or if before leaving, the Jew said to the idol worshiper, stand guard outside this door. Not inside the door, outside the door. And he comes back, and he finds the idol worshiper inside the door also. The wine is forbidden. My love, lay now, is it not so that the Bryce's first ruling holds true, even if the idol worship has no way of evading an accusation of burglary on account of his having locked the door? Thus, we see that an inability to justify his actions does not mean that the wine is permitted. An inability to justify his actions, and with not being able to give an alibi, doesn't mean that the wine is permitted, but that's really a question mark. Again, you need not memorize this. We're just trying to make up what the Gemara is giving us various situations where an idol worship is found by Jews. And again, we have to think it out, and the Gemara gives us how they thought it out, whether or not it's permitted or not. We're just getting a flavor of the wine, so to say, without drinking it. A smell of the wine without smelling it. A taste of the wine without tasting it. That sounds so poetic. All right. No, your understanding of the Bryce is incorrect. The Bryce refers to a way as a way to evade a charge of burglary. That's what Hillel said before. He has an alibi. Let's go on to the fifth instance. There was a certain Jew and idol worshiper. They were sitting and they were drinking wine together. They're not supposed to be drinking wine together, but they are drinking wine together. Shema Yisrael. They should have said Shema Yisrael. That's not what it says. Shema Yisrael Katzalui Be Kenishta. The Jew heard the sound of praying in the synagogue. So Shema Yisrael means the Jew Shema. The Jew heard, oh, they said, Beidaber Ashbei, they're starting to have mincha. You know, he went to catch a quick mincha. He didn't know it's going to be a long mincha, a short mincha, where they daven slow, fast. He just wants to go in that mincha, right? Come to us. He rose and he went to join them. So he said to the guy, he didn't say, be right back. He said, one moment. I'm going to pray. All right. I'm a Rava. Rava said, Chamashari. This, he says, Rava said the wine is permitted. Why is wine permitted? So surely the idol worshiper said, you know, one of these moments the Jew's going to remember that he left me here with the wine. All right? And I don't know how religious he is, and I don't know how much kavana, attention he pays to davening, but he might run back here right after Kedusha or whatever it is and check on me and the wine. So I'm not going to mess with anything. And that's why they said the wine is all right, because he wouldn't touch it. Okay? Interesting. I said, okay. It's okay. I didn't say all right. See you, Jeff. 6 now. We're now down to the last two people, which is my trusty Hilo. Sancho. What's your last name in the Pacquiao and Sancho? What?
Pancho.
Pancho.
Pancho, Pancho.
Sancho Pancho. Pancho Villa.
That's really good.
But we're in Chile. I had lunch with dinner with okay. Ahu Yisrael voted to Chavan WCB the Arbor. There was a stranger when I was we're sitting in a boat together on a Friday afternoon drinking wine. Now, what's this guy's drinking wine on Friday afternoon? Somebody show called Shipuri Devashim Shin. Did you hear the sounds of the shofars being announced that the arrival of sunset is coming? Right? You know, in Israel, in Borough Park, I don't know if they have this in Crown Heights also.
Nice to have.
Sure, from neighborhoods in Yerushalayim for sure. Before Shabbos come, they have horn blasts.
We need
And
that.
they have 2 horn blasts and then one we need it here. All you have to do is look at the nearest stop sign. If people are going through stop signs and driving like Meshuggahs, you know, it's almost Shabbos. Right there, you got that enough here. All right. Shema Yisrael, I shouldn't really say that. Or if you go into Publix, and you see a minion is still in Publix buying with yarmulkes, you know it's almost Shabbos because they were sent there by the worst because they forgot something. All right? Shama Yisrael, Kal Shipurei Devashim Shei. So the Jew heard the sound that it's almost Shabbos. Nafak Vazo. So he arose, he got up from the boat, and he runs into the port. Well, you should think, wow, this wine should be not permitted because the Jew left. He's not going to reboard the boat on Shabbos. He left this boat Erev Shabbos, right before Shabbos, to go into the port. Who knows, you know, when he's going to come back. Yet this Mishnah here says, or this case the Gemara says, it's allowed. Nafak Vazo got up, I'm a Rabbi says, I'm a Shami, it's allowed. So why? Neymar Amar, Hashta Midvar Leila, Chamre Bahada Asem. Because the idol worshiper might say to himself, at any moment, similar to last thing, the Jew might remind himself of the wine. Obviously, these idol worshippers didn't have much respect or much confidence in the religiousness of these Jews. So you might say that didn't speak much of the Jews. But then again, it speaks of the person saying it. Because as Shakespeare says, we think a lady doth protest too much. People see the weakness in others that they see in themselves. So just like these idol worshippers certainly will break a lot of rules, they're assuming automatically the Jews will break rules. So that Jew, even though it's Shabbos, you know he's going to come back as soon as he remembers the stuff he owns this year. And if you argue that the idol worshiper did not think this, because he says it's Shabbos. It was the first thought is he'd say the Jew will come back because he remembered he forgot his wine. Or if you say no, he didn't think this because it's Shabbos, he assumed that the Jew would not violate Shabbos and return to the boat. This is not so. Why? Hamar Rava, because Rava says, Hamar li Isra Giyura. Isra was the name of a convert. It's funny that he has the name Isra, which means Asur, it's not allowed. Isra, the convert, told me, Yavinan, Amina, when we were Armenians, and with Gentiles, before he became an idol worshiper again, he said, we used to say, Yehudai lo menatre Shabbat. The Jews do not really keep the Shabbos. Again, projection. They didn't necessarily keep their laws, so their attitude was, you know what? Jews don't really keep their laws. Obviously, they learned from the wrong people. It says, because if they did not keep the Sabbath, because if they did keep the Sabbath, we'd be finding a lot of money on the streets. You know, we were like pickpockets. We'd be finding wallets everywhere that would have been abandoned by the Jews. Because the Jews that were out there on the way to shul, if they forgot to misham sheish their pockets, forgot to check their pockets to see if they had any money before they went out to shul, all right? then they discovered once they were outside, and we drop them in the street. And he says, we're not finding in the street. So therefore, these Jews, they're probably not, they're Shabbos. They're probably not keeping the Shabbos. Well, he had done the Sphira law to Rabbi Yitzchak, but Esau didn't know that at that time we hold in the coins for Rabbi Yitzchak. All right, and what did Rabbi Yitzchak say? Dam Rabbi Yitzchak, Hamatze kis b'Shabbos, malicho pachas pachas mi'aba amos. If let's say a Jew is out on Shabbos, he's walking, and all of a sudden he's just scratching himself and he goes, "Oh my God, I'm carrying," and it's Shabbos. What's the rule? You don't stop. You either keep on walking or according to Rabbi Yitzchak, you walk less than 4 amos because you have to walk at least the distance of 4 amos. An amos is 18 inches to 2 feet. So you have to walk 6 to 8 feet. So you're walking, let's say, 5 feet and you stop. So therefore you didn't really carry. Then you walk 5 feet again and then stop. And you keep on repeating that. And as long as you keep on doing this, according to Rabbi Yitzchak, you have a way of carrying on Shabbos. It's like a loophole, not preferred, but for the effort, if it happens because you forgot or you missed it in checking. All right. So we see that the idol worshippers believe Jews will transgress the Shabbos for the sake of saving their money. But really, they didn't do that. All right. They eventually would get to a place where, oh, this is a good hiding place. I'll drop it there and I'll come back after Shabbos and pick it up. Here too, therefore, the idol worshiper on the boat was fearful for the Jew that he might return to check on his wine. That's why that case. We're up to the 7th incident. But let me, I'm pooping out. Let's stop here. I'm just, all right, so we're now at the bottom quarter of the page, the 7th incident. No, let's do this because it looks interesting with a lion. Okay, and all right, Ari, a lion. Who are you? There was a certain lion that was roaring near a wine press. Let me give me imitation. Oh, it's a lousy imitation. Okay, if I had a little kid here, they know how to go roar. All right, so an idol worshiper heard this. Tasha bade me. And he ran and hid between the barrels. All right? Because he was scared of the lion. So now we have a case of an idol worshiper hiding. And we had sitting, we had standing, we had walking in. Now he's hiding between the barrels. So we might raise the question, he's hiding behind between the kosher barrels. Maybe he's going to end up drinking the wine. You know, he said, well, you know what? The lion's going to eat me up. Maybe I might as well have a good, schnapps before it's all over, a good wine. Some of the kochavim, when I heard it, Tasha Bene done it. He hid between the barrels. But what did Rava said? Once again, Rava says, you know what? That wine's still permitted. So why should it be permitted if we find an idol worshiper hiding in between kosher barrels? The Tashi. The Tashina Anna Itcha Nami Yisrael. Right? Why? Because the idol worship might say, well, wait a minute. You know, just like I heard that roar and I hid here, maybe the Jew was hiding behind me, you know, right be those barrels. And therefore, if I go drink from these or make a hole in the barrel top, he's going to see me and look at that problem. So let's stop with that. So we're at the 8th incident, which is about thieves. They're going into Pumbedisa and opening many barracks. So at least we're almost at the bottom of 70, 71, no, 70 Amud Aleph, the first side. Today we're supposed to be 71. So we're 1.5 behind. As of today, of course, tomorrow will be 2.5, but at least we weren't 3.5. You know, we're getting it. So, Rabbi Smith, if you are listening to this, which I don't think you are, but someone will tell you, we're doing our best to catch up, even if at this moment, all we have here are empty cups, empty chulent bowls. Come here. Let them see you. My. Hello there. Look at that guy. He's single, ladies. He's still single, all right? And we're looking to get him a show. They don't want a profile picture. Hello. They want the real thing. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Bye. Bye-bye. Good Erev Shabbos. We'll see you in the morning, 5:30. And up here. This. Okay.